Life. What is it? Does it matter? Do we matter? Do I even have answers to these questions? Well, I'm going to take a stab at it today. I'm going to try my best to answer all this for you and give you my point of view. So I grew up, let's say, spiritual. I was raised as a French Catholic, and at the age of 11, my mother converted to Wicca. And so then I started having more of a ritualistic and spiritual influence in my life. And I thought it was very cool. I thought church was very boring. A French Catholic church, well, the ones I went to had no music and it was just talking. So there's not much to it. In my older adulthood, I did visit churches, Anglican churches and metropolitan churches and United churches. And I've visited more different types of Christianity that were much more interesting. And I thought a lot more thoughtful in the way the service was curated. And I've also explored Buddhism quite deeply. I've explored Hinduism. I've read a lot of spiritual texts, including much of the Bible, the Satanic Bible, translations of the Gnostic texts, as well as a lot of modern interpretations of how the world works. And this is what I've kind of boiled it down to these days. I've spent decades contemplating life. Almost every day I take quite a bit of time just to contemplate life. And I truly believe that we live in a holographic reality. I believe where we are is in some degree a simulation. What is the simulation for? Why is it here? Who created the simulation? These things I don't know. But when I say simulation, it's not to imply that this isn't real. I do believe that everything around us is completely real. But in the way our physics work, quantum physics, all the way to the subatomic level, it just... There's a lot of people who've had spiritual revelations after becoming well educated in coding. And through the guise of understanding coding and digital programming language, they have a better sense and understanding of what reality is and how it works. And there have been classic questions in physics that have been unsolvable that have been solved by coders using logic and coding. There are a lot of parallels in programming and how the world works and how this universe functions. And so this is kind of a loose reasoning of why I think everything is holographic and that we live in a simulation. A lot of people think that our lives don't matter, that we're so small, that we are just an atom in a greater body of being. Another way I would put it is like, think of your body. Your body has trillions of cells, and each cell has its own responsibility, its own purpose, and lives in its own community or city of cells that are functioning to a specific degree, performing certain tasks in order to balance the whole. And in this metaphor, you would be one of just these little cells in a much bigger system, even a smaller piece. And I do feel this is the case, but because of this, I feel it does give your life meaning. I do feel everyone's lives have deep and profound meaning, and every action we make has significance. Now, our actions, are they free? Do we have free will? I'm still undecided on that. Scientifically, it seems as though we are chemically programmed. So there are strings of chemical patterns that go off in our brains, and they trigger hunger, they trigger urges, they trigger fear, they trigger happiness, they trigger tiredness. And some scientists believe that all these chemical reactions are kind of like chain reactions constantly going off that have complete control over your entire life. Today you're motivated, you decide to go for a run. The next day you eat a bag of chips and you're sitting on the couch. Those things are related, and it's all these hormones that are having chain reactions and triggering each other into this complex web of patterning that forces you to do the things you do. So some scientists believe this is the case, and some believe that this is more like a loose potential, and that this is the default programming, but extreme will could bypass the hormones. I mean, painfully extreme, think of like craving an addiction. You're craving it. You do it on a daily basis. And when you initially stop, it is so difficult because everything in your body is telling you that you need to fulfill this addiction. Physically, your body is almost acting like it's dying without it. And then your mind starts playing tricks on you. And the hormones are releasing packets of information that are trying to convince you mentally through autosuggestion that you need to fulfill this task or this addiction. So this is an example of the chemicals in your brain, the hormones in your body, and how they influence your day-to-day life. But you still could choose to go against those hormone influences and making decisions. But scientists agree that this would probably be very difficult, but people do it all the time. And a better way of going about it is, since we're chemical beings, choosing new actions, eating new foods, and creating new habits slowly, day by day, to influence your hormones in order to influence the direction that your hormones are going to be pushing you into reacting. So I have this hybrid belief in spirituality and science, and I believe they meld together, and they're actually the same thing, because what spiritualists or religions are trying to describe is a known science, but not known by us, known by a higher frequency of understanding, a higher beingness that we all have access to, the greater source of beingness that we're all connected to. What that looks like and how many layers of it there are, it's hard to say. There are people and channelers who've talked about experiences in other dimensions and in past lives, and who seem to have a great depth of information and specifics on how the universe works. But a lot of them contradict each other, and it's really hard to say what's right. But I truly think that we live in a holographic universe, and the best thing you could do to propel your life forward is to figure out how to influence your body into wanting things that align with where you want to go in life. If you want a strong and healthy physique, and your body is constantly craving things that are damaging your body, well, how can you influence your body into creating those hormones to move you in the right direction forward? Search it, type it into ChatGPT, do some search on Google. I know this is probably not the direction you thought I was going to go when I was talking about how the universe works in spirituality, but this is what I believe.